Hello, 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 hello. Are you out there? Thank you so much for watching. 66 people so far. Hopefully it'll grow. Hey, this is Warren Redlick. Happy to talk to you today about Tesla, about SpaceX, about Plaid, about FSD. A lot of great stuff going on. There's been a lot of it. Just what always happens with Tesla is there's negative news all the time. I want to say hi to Mark Plott and Alexandra Tesla, Booma, Mommer, Bean Mice. There's a bunch of people in the chat who are regulars. I want to thank you for being there. Mark Plott, thank you for moderating the chat as well. So it's always bad news, and it's like people are missing the big story. Just really quick up here. You can't click on it, but t-shirts at elonbits.com, the Be Less Wrong shirt. And this is something I just got myself, my new sample. This is the Tesla stainless steel water bottle. Before I had the Elon water bottle. That's the Tesla font. So check out elonbits.com to get the stuff. I love these. These are fantastic. Use them all the time. And I wear the t-shirts all the time too. So I wanted to get into the headlines and just sort of talk about what's here. Tesla, this is the typical spin. Business Insider is one of the worst media outlets in terms of how they cover Tesla. They're all bad, but that Business Insider is one of the worst. So you can see where others sort of talk about things in a negative way. Tesla is sacking staff who recently started and withdrawing job offers. This is happening across the economy. This isn't something specific to Tesla. That the economy, we're hitting a recession. We got inflation. There's all kinds of economic problems. And of course, Business Insider talks about Tesla in a negative headline to get clicks rather than to actually have a substantive discussion of what's going on with Tesla and what, I have a lot of good news about Tesla. I'm going to talk about it in a minute. Here, Elon Musk says he's worried about keeping Tesla out of bankruptcy. That's hyperbole. He's just saying that. They've got like $16 billion in cash. They're profitable. There's no significant threat of bankruptcy for Tesla at this point in time. Now, if the economy completely tanked and the demand dried up for Tesla cars, then maybe there'd be a problem. But right now, the demand backlog is like a year long. Hi, Amy. I just saw Amy the other day. Was that 2 days ago, 3 days ago? I don't even remember how long ago it was, Amy. I'm like, my mind is going crazy. So, Elon had this interview which was a great interview. It was a 3-part video. I think it was Tesla Club of Silicon Valley. It's a great interview. Really, there's so much substance to the conversations that were had, and the media tries to find the absolute worst thing they can twist into something bad. They try to find something they can twist into something bad. 3+ hours, maybe 4 hours of conversation, and they pick out one little thing here and one little thing here, and they make bad headlines about it. There was a lot of great stuff in those interviews. I encourage you to watch them. The first one is really more history, so it's less interesting. The second and third, for me, I'm a forward-looking guy. I'm less interested in the history of the company. For me, number 2 and number 3 were more forward-looking. So look for Tesla Club of Silicon Valley. I think that's the one. Definitely check it out. Ibrahim, I'll talk about the apocalypse cabin later. Tesla, Ford, and GM raise EV prices. See, this is a more fair headline. Now, why is Tesla the first one in the headline when Ford and GM sell more cars? I don't know. I guess Tesla sells more EVs. Car prices have been going up because we have inflation. Prices are going up everywhere. Hi, Jennifer. 18 billion in cash, Matt Burns says. Yeah, they have $18 billion in cash. There's no near-term threat of bankruptcy for Tesla. He talked about how Lucid and Rivian are headed for bankruptcy because their cost structure is so high that you need to make. There was a really interesting bit of that video where you need to produce cars that cost you less to make than you sell them, right? That's obvious. And you need to make enough volume that you can cover your fixed costs as well. And one of the problems that Rivian and Lucid face is, number one, it costs them more to build the cars than they sell them for. And number two, they chose niches that's hard to sell in high volumes. Expensive vehicles are hard to sell in high volumes, going for a lower priced vehicle. So Volkswagen's ID4 is targeted to a much lower end of the market, so there's much more potential for volume. So, but they raise prices. Yeah, okay, well, but prices are going up everywhere because there's supply chain issues and the inflation is what it is. Tesla's got, over the top demand. Do they want to have order backlogs 2 or 3 years long? No, they raise prices so they keep the order backlog shorter so customers don't get disappointed. Tesla and I love this one. Tesla and Volkswagen square off in duel for electric car dominance. Really? Really? Volkswagen doesn't have significant plans to manufacture high volumes of electric vehicles. They're trying. They're making some progress. They're doing better than almost any other legacy car maker. Maybe Hyundai and Kia are doing okay, but they're not really pushing where they need to go to get. And you can see where Tesla. This is. I just want to talk about the good news for a second. Here's the good news. Okay, maybe actually I think I have this. I have this in the headlines. I don't know if I have this in the headlines. I'm just going to talk about this. Giga Shanghai. I guess I didn't screenshot anything for this. Giga Shanghai is being shut down for anywhere from 4 days to 2 weeks so that they can increase they can revamp the line so they can increase productivity. And they're heading to where the current Giga Shanghai will be producing or have the capacity to produce more than 1 million vehicles a year, like 1.14. My number was 1.14 million vehicles a year, 22,000 a week. That's crazy. That's a huge, huge volume. And they're building a second factory in Shanghai that will probably replicate that. So you're talking about over 2 million vehicles a year just from Giga Shanghai, right? The one factory that they've got now, by the end of this year, for 2023, that will produce more vehicles than Tesla produced 2 years earlier as a whole company. That's how fast Tesla's growing. And you add in Berlin, and you add in Texas, and you add in Fremont. Tesla's growing like gangbusters. You're going to see 2 million a year out of Shanghai. Maybe 2024, you're going to see 1 million a year out of Fremont in 2024. You're going to see 1 million a year out of Berlin in 2024, and you're going to see 2 million a year out of Texas in 2024. You're looking at 6 million vehicles a year in 2024. We did less than 1 million last year. You're talking a 3-year jump, you 6x production. That's where we're heading. And that doesn't include the Robotaxi factories they're going to build. That doesn't include, the growth in Megapack. There's so many things that are happening that are good, and they just constantly talk about the bad stuff. Let's go to the headlines again. So, New York Times typically, how Elon Musk and Tesla help make CEO pay even richer. It's just so dumb. Elon doesn't get paid. He doesn't get a salary. They structured an options package that would incentivize him to grow the company, which he's already incentivized to grow the company because he owns a lot of it. But they structured an incentive package. He succeeded, right? Tesla grew like gangbusters. They achieved the targets that they were supposed to achieve, and he got his options. And he paid a ridiculous amount of taxes exercising his options. Where's the problem here? If some other company wants to tie their executive pay to that level of success, where's the problem? The shareholders benefit when the company succeeds like that. I don't see where there's an issue here. So, and the gap with workers widened even further. Tesla workers own Tesla stock. They're doing great. When the stock goes up, they make a lot of money. Tesla workers are well paid. They're happy. They're comfortable. This idea that pay should be based, that executive pay and worker pay should somehow be connected. What's your value to the company, right? You as a worker, what value do you add to the company? We know Elon adds staggering value to the company. That's the thing. He gets paid a lot in terms of his options because the value he adds to the company is staggering. What other company has achieved what Tesla has achieved? What other startup car company has succeeded since Ford? Right? None. He's led this company through revolutionary change, and he deserves to be compensated well for his success. That's the way they structured the pay. They could have paid him, $10 million a year. They could have worked out a pay package like that, but they decided he had to be paid, and that's how he got paid. So the New York Times just has to bash success. It's all about bashing success. There's no acknowledgement that Elon delivered a massive amount of success for Tesla, and that's why he got paid so much, because that's how they structured his compensation package. Tesla expands the availability of new Texas-built Model Y and raises the price. So I'm going to talk about this in a minute. It appears that Tesla is delivering a 2170 long-range Model Y from Texas. I'll talk about that shortly, because Rob Maurer talked about it. I'm going to go into what he talked about. Tesla relaunches $6,000 enhanced Autopilot. A lot of people think this is a big deal. I think FSD is the big deal, and enhanced Autopilot is like a nice thing to add. I don't know how many people are choosing enhanced autopilot. I don't know whether that's going to increase the take rate. It does give you a lot of useful features, but really when FSD goes into wide release, it's going to be so much better than enhanced autopilot. You know, if people are going to buy it, I guess it's okay, but okay. And then Musk cites Tesla bankruptcy fears once, you know, so again, you saw it. They look for, you know, the worst thing they can grab out of any content and then spin it in a bad way and put Musk and Tesla in the headline because and bankruptcy fears. They use all these loaded words to get more clicks. Just ridiculous. So this was more interesting. China EV stocks are all the rage, trouncing Tesla. What difference does it make how they compare to Tesla? They have to squeeze Tesla in the headline. Look, NIO, XPeng, and Li Auto's stocks are up. Okay. I'm happy about that. I want those companies to do well. We want more EVs. NIO just had a great review from Sandy Munro. Wasn't a full teardown or anything like that, but Sandy drove the car and he liked it. I thought it was a little quirky and a little weird. I'm not a huge fan of NIO. I think they're okay. I think they're making some progress. I think these other companies are interesting. I've never even heard of Li Auto. I think XPeng's interesting. I hope they succeed. But, you know, maybe their stocks are up because they were down. You know, Tesla stock was high and maybe it caught a little wind. Maybe the other stocks were down and they went up. It's just, what does this have to do with Tesla? Nothing. Just squeeze it in the headline, get more clicks. If you had NIO and XPeng in the headline, nobody would know what you were talking about. So you have to put Tesla in the headline. This was a nice point from Sawyer Merritt, and Elon appreciated it. Tesla Model Y and Model 3 have been named the most American-made vehicles in the U.S. by Cars.com. So General Motors and Ford and Stellantis, I guess it's called now, Dodge Chrysler or whatever, they're perceived as American car companies, but Tesla is the most American car company. The content of the cars is more of the content of the cars is made in the United States than any other vehicle. And keep in mind, the battery cells, some of the battery cells are not made in the U.S. The Panasonic battery cells for the 2170s are made in the U.S. The 4680s are made in the U.S. I think they do get some lithium iron phosphate batteries shipped in from China. Maybe some 2170 cells are shipped in from South Korea, maybe from LG Chem. But, you know, largely the Tesla cars are made in the United States. You know, some chips are probably outsourced from Taiwan, but that's really important. I personally don't care. Like, I love free trade and however you want to do it. I think it's good from a manufacturing perspective and an efficiency perspective that if you have more of your supply chain local, then you have to then there's less moving of molecules around the world, and that makes your production more efficient. That's probably more important than the American made, but a lot of Americans like American made, and Teslas are the most American made car. So this is what I wanted to talk about. Rob Maurer, if you watch Rob Maurer's, I think it's his most recent video, that he talked about it on a previous video, that someone was told they're getting their Model Y long range, and when they saw the VIN number, it was an Austin VIN number. They think it's the 7th to last digit in the VIN number. If it's A, it's Austin. If it's F, it's Fremont. So this customer got noticed that he's getting a long range from Giga Texas, which suggests that they've got the Model Y 2170 line up and running. When they had that interview with Tesla Silicon Valley, Elon said that some tooling was stuck in a Chinese port. He said was, past tense. I'm going with how Rob described it. So it appears that tooling is now in Giga Texas, and they are producing 2170 vehicles in Giga Texas. Nice to see. I think from the interview, we got the impression that the ramp of 4680 is slower than we would like it to be, but they'll get there. So that's an important detail. You're going to see higher production of Model Y, which means if you're waiting on a Model Y, there's a better chance you're going to get it sooner because they're increasing production of Model Y. And apparently, I'm trying to remember what Rob said. I think it's not clear to me whether the Model Y that's using 2170s in Texas is using front and rear castings or not. Are they completely copying the manufacturing lines in Shanghai and Fremont, or have they gone to front and rear castings on those vehicles? I suspect they have gone to front and rear castings, but I don't know for sure. Okay. I want to turn to SpaceX now. We'll come back. Maybe we'll talk about Tesla a little bit later. I'm going to talk about Tesla later because there's a question about Plaid. a couple questions about Tesla in the Q and the for Patreon supporters, local supporters, and YouTube community channel members. YouTube channel members can submit questions ahead of the live stream. I asked them to do that, and I got a couple questions from them. So this was exciting. I was watching this live. SpaceX was testing the chopsticks. So if you can see here, let me put up a different picture of this. You can see here that the launch tower is here, and the chopsticks are here. They stick out from the launch tower, and the idea is they're going to catch the booster when it lands, and here they tested picking it up. And I just thought this was really cool over here. Look at the number of engines. There's 33 engines at the bottom of this rocket. That's just spectacular. The whole thing is spectacular. There's more news. SpaceX then, I think they took it back to the high bay, and now they moved it back again to prep it for static fire testing, and there's been some testing here. This was just this morning. Booster 7 igniters were tested, checking another item needed for static fire testing. Meanwhile, the finer part, okay, and then down below, Michael Sheets says that Ship 24, I follow NASA Spaceflight on Twitter. I get a lot of my SpaceX news from NASA Spaceflight, both on Twitter and YouTube. I watched that video on YouTube for NASA Spaceflight, but Ship 24 is being attached to the bridge crane in the high bay, so they may be installing Raptors there. It's getting closer and closer to the orbital test launch of Starship and Super Heavy. So I'm personally very excited about that. Like, I've been to Starbase twice. I don't really want to go back, but if they're going to be doing an orbital launch, I'm going back to Starbase. I've got to see this. That's going to be a blast. Other SpaceX news, Dish Networks, which is a satellite internet provider and satellite television provider, has challenged Tesla's. They're fighting for Tesla over the allocation of some frequencies that SpaceX would use for Starlink and that Dish would use either for Starlink or for 5G. And this would damage Starlink if this went through. Elon said Dish's attempt to bait and switch satellite spectrum for cellular spectrum is super shady, unethical. If they are successful, it would hurt the least served and completely unserved of the world. Very messed up. In other words, SpaceX Starlink extends access to the internet to places where people have poor internet connections or no internet connections, because you'll be able to access it from anywhere, and it's fairly reasonably priced. And Dish Networks, of course, they're competing, but the nature of their competition, as Michael Sheets put it, or as in the claim is that Dish filed intentionally misleading reports in order to support their position. So we'll see how this turns out. This is a threat to Starlink's success. If Dish is successful, it would reduce the amount of bandwidth available for SpaceX to make the Starlink network work. It could interfere with service for some Starlink users. So that's what's going on there. I want to get to the questions and answers. This is Alexandra. I did an interview with her not that long ago. She is one of my supporters on Patreon and I think on Locals. And she says, "Hi, Warren. After 7,000 miles, what are the pros and cons of the Plaid X?" Also, okay, so the Plaid X. Number one, the X overall is a super luxury vehicle from my perspective, because I've mostly driven less expensive cars. This is over $100,000 car. Most I ever paid for a car before was $44,000 for the Model 3 and around $40,000 for Acura MDXs. So this is like next level in terms of luxury. Super quiet on the road. Super fast. I mean, the Plaid, the thing that distinguishes Plaid from other vehicles is the acceleration is just bonkers. It's bonkers. It's so fast. And the thing I want to stress here when you're talking about the acceleration, it's really hard. Like, I take people and I say, hey, somebody says, hey, let's go for a ride in the Plaid or whatever. I take them for a ride in the Plaid and I show them the standing start acceleration, and you can feel, the seat pushing into your back, and it's very powerful. But for me, that lacks context. And the context that really makes the Plaid acceleration stand out is when you're passing on a dotted yellow line. You're driving on a one lane each way road, and you're going, 65 mile an hour zone, and there's a old minivan going 55 in front of you. And on curvy sections, you have a double yellow line you can't pass, and you get a straightaway, and there's a dotted yellow line. If there's no cars coming the other way, you can pass. In my Volkswagen Passat, dotted line passing, and I do a lot of dotted line passing to get to where my mom lives in Sebring, Florida, on Beeline Highway and Highway 98. So In my Volkswagen Passat that I had before, I could pass, but it wasn't very impressive. And, there were sometimes you couldn't make the pass. And the Model 3 is very quick. And so the Model 3 was much better than the Passat at making passes on the dotted yellow line. And, you'd get up to speed and get over and usually be easy to make a pass. In the Plaid, it's like, it's so much faster. But that context of how quickly you get around the car that you're passing, or the cars that you're passing, and the ability to say, you know what, I'm going to pass all 10 of these. And then you come back in your lane and you realize you were going over 100 miles an hour, which is probably faster than you wanted to go. But you get to 100 so fast. It's just, it's shocking. It's super quiet. I don't like the 6-seat layout. I would rather have a 5 or 7-seat layout. For whatever reason, Tesla decided to go a 6-seat layout. I guess most Plaid buyers wanted 6 seats, so they wanted to make it simpler for them to do that. Remember, elonbits.com. So I did sleep in it. I think it's better sleeping in it. Honestly, I'll be talking about this, and maybe I'll be talking about this in a minute. I'm about to go sleep in my Apocalypse cabin, and I'm going to have the Model X with me. And if the Apocalypse cabin isn't comfortable, I can always sleep in the car. I suspect the car's air conditioning is going to be more reliable than the cabin's air conditioning. So we're going to see how this works out. I should have a picture of the cabin up for you guys. It's not much of a cabin. It's a glorified shed. It's good. It's got air conditioning. It's got solar panels. It's got batteries. It's got, a couple other things, but it's small. So, can I recap my charging experience? So driving across the country, I spent about $700, I think, there and back on electricity. And I think that wasn't that much less than if I had been driving my Volkswagen Passat and paying for gasoline. Even though gasoline's expensive, the Passat's very fuel efficient. The superchargers can be expensive. So locally here in Florida, if you supercharge before 10 a.m. or after 8 p.m. in Palm Beach and Broward counties, I should say, then you get a lower rate. And there are a couple of superchargers in Palm Beach and Broward, one in the Delray Marketplace and one at Plantation, where it's 24 cents a kilowatt hour, 24/7. They're somewhat slower chargers. But, you save a significant amount of money because it's 24.48 during peak time. So if you're charging during peak time and you go to a 24 cent a kilowatt hour supercharger, you're saving a lot of money. And the one in Delray Marketplace is close to a Publix grocery store. So I walked over to the grocery store, and then I had to reserve a U-Haul. I'm about to move. This, by the way, this may be the last time you see me in this space. I am moving out of this condo in a couple days. I might make another video tomorrow. We'll see how my timing goes. But there's a really strong chance this is the last video you'll see in the space. Let's see, charging experience. So, the charging experience, I just want to say, you plug in, it charges. Sometimes it's quicker, sometimes it's longer. I think one of the things that stands out to me is because the Model X has like a 104 kilowatt hour pack and my Model 3 has a 75 kilowatt hour pack, it seems like charging takes a little longer, right? That's not surprising. There's more, it takes more to fill it. And like my personal, the biggest con of the Plaid X is efficiency. And I think this is probably true of the X in general. It's just not as efficient as the 3. So on my 3, I would say I average about 4 miles a kilowatt hour. On the X, I average less than 3 miles a kilowatt hour. So that kind of makes up for the battery pack. It doesn't really have that much more range than the 3. And this really depends on how fast you drive, because the biggest limitation on the X is it's got a bigger frontal surface area. It's pretty aerodynamic in terms of coefficient of drag, but it's got a big frontal surface area you're pushing through the wind. I mean, it's got a lot of mass, too. It's, 5,300 pounds versus probably under 4,000 pounds for my 3. But I really think it's the wind resistance that kills you at speed. When you're going 85 miles an hour, you just don't get as much range. When you drop down to 65 miles an hour, you do better. But, it's probably my biggest frustration. I'll get over it. It's not that big of a deal, but it's just not as efficient. Are you still decided to keep the Plaid X until you get the Cybertruck? Yeah. I mean, I don't have any plans to do anything different. In theory, I could sell my X now for like $160,000 when I paid like $135,000, take the profit and buy something else. But what am I going to buy? I can't get, like, if I was to pick a vehicle, maybe I'd get an X long range, or, more likely I'd get a Model Y long range. But you know, the backlog on a Model Y long range is like a year. So there's no point in switching. There's a theory that I should get a pickup truck, an all 4-wheel drive pickup truck, so I can get to my cyber cabin, my apocalypse cabin. I got stuck in the Plaid X in sand. I had to get winched out by a tow truck, going in the front way to my cabin. I got in the back way yesterday and dropped off some stuff, and I'm gonna go back in a few days, and I'm gonna bring a bunch of stone with me. There's some sandy spots that are hard to get through. So I'm gonna put down, like, I don't know, 10 bags of stone in 2 different spots, to make sure I can get through the sand comfortably and get to my cabin. You don't want to get. I don't want to get stuck again. I gave the tow truck guy $300 cash. I think I was going to give him 400 cash. He only took 300. So, but yeah, I'm excited about Cybertruck, and I'm gonna hold the Plaid X. My feeling is I drive the Plaid X for a year, and maybe I sell it at a profit, or maybe I sell it for what I paid for it. I'll probably sell it for a $20,000 profit, and I get to drive it for basically, I get paid to drive it for a year. Seems like a good plan to me. And I definitely think I definitely think it's sleepable. It's not ideal for sleeping, but I configured it so I can sleep in it. And it's my backup plan. If the cabin becomes uninhabitable or, uncomfortable, I can sleep in the X. I've slept in the X before. So yes, I'm still decided to keep it until I get Cybertruck. And then let's see. Chokonen says, good luck on the move. When do you think they will announce the Robotaxi specific model? I think later this year. It's possible they announce it at AI Day 2. It might not be enough. Given if they don't announce it at AI Day 2, which is September 30th, I don't think they're going to announce it at the shareholder meeting, which is August 4th. So that takes you to AI Day 2. It would fit with AI Day 2 for them to talk about the Robotaxi model, but Elon has said they're not going to start manufacturing it until 2024. So it feels kind of premature for them to disclose what the Robotaxi model is going to be. And I don't think there's much advantage to Tesla to saying what it's going to be unless describing that new vehicle helps recruiting new engineers. Because the purpose of AID2 is to recruit new engineers. But I don't think the vehicle is going to be that special that will add to the recruitment effort. So more likely we will hear, I'm hoping we hear about it sooner. When they decide where they're going to build Robotaxi factories, which if they're going to start manufacturing them in 2024, they got to start building the factories in 2023. So if they start announcing where their next Robotaxi, where their next factory locations are going to be, that would make sense. I mean, they did announce a new factory in Shanghai. If that factory is for the Robotaxi model, that would be different. I don't think it is. I think they're going to produce more Model Ys and maybe Model 3s in that new factory. So, pretty sure it'll be used for boring company tunnels, so I imagine it should be soon. I think boring company tunnels are a long way from getting to the point where they need Robotaxi-specific vehicles. Number one, they've got to build a lot of tunnel, which is, they should be a lot of tunnel being built in 2023. Maybe they'll start building in higher volumes in 2023. But more likely 2024. So I don't think, the Las Vegas tunnel system won't need that many vehicles. 3s and Ys will be mostly good for most of what they need. I don't think that's going to be a big deal. All right, let me just see what we have in the Q&A in the chat over here. See a question from Matt. Do I think Robotaxis need windshields? Yes, I do. Do I think you need to be able to see through them? No. When do I think the Starship will launch? I think August, but that might be optimistic. This is Jared asking. Want to sell my F-150 for Tesla? Can't afford gas anyways. Yes. Any progress on the girlfriend pursuit? Yeah, the progress is I've given up. I just don't see myself finding a girlfriend. So I'm at the point where I think this is my joke. I'm half joking that I'm going to hire a surrogate, that a surrogate's going to cost about $100,000, and a wife would cost like $1 million. So the surrogate process makes a lot more sense. And if I have a child through a surrogate as a single father, I can't lose custody. If I get married and have kids with a wife and then we get divorced, then I probably lose custody to the wife. At least half and maybe more custody, whatever. But if I have kids through a surrogate, then I have an even crazier idea that I'm not talking about publicly. But will Tesla stock split be bad for Leap since it's paid in dividends? I don't have any opinion on options. I don't discuss options. I don't think about splits. I don't think splits are important. A lot of other people get excited about splits and excited about options. This is just not the channel for that. Plain and simple. I don't talk about that stuff. I don't care about that stuff. That's not. I talk about what's happening with the company, where the growth is. And what we see is we can see a clear path with the factories we know about today to 6 million vehicles a year, maybe 2024. That's a lot of growth. That's all you need. And with that growth comes economies of scale, comes efficiencies. The cost per vehicle goes down to Tesla. So far, the prices keep going up. So, maybe when they start producing in enough volume at some point, the price will start coming back down, but who knows? Sell my motorcycle for some TSLA, of course. I don't offer that kind of personal financial advice. I don't know your personal situation. There's a theory you should keep your Model 3 and sell the X and buy more Tesla. No, my daughter's driving the Model 3. I sold my daughter's car. I mean, my daughter was driving my Volkswagen Passat. I traded the Passat in to get the X, and my daughter got the 3. And my daughter's driving the 3. So yeah. So, I suppose I could get my daughter some other car, and I could go back to the 3, which is probably better for sleeping in than the X, and it's more efficient than the X, but I can afford to do what I'm doing, so I'm going to do what I'm doing. Let's see. How is your electricity generated? I don't know. I'm in Florida. I don't know how the electricity is generated. I don't care. Do the girls go crazy over the Tesla Model X Plaid? So I was at my house and my daughter had friends over and her friends wanted to see the X. I don't know that they cared that it was a Plaid. It was filled with my stuff that I was moving to the cabin, so I couldn't take them for a drive. Generally speaking, I think anyone who rides in the Plaid is very impressed by the acceleration and they're impressed by the overall quality of the vehicle. Girls don't if I'm around, girls don't go crazy. That's the rule. Did Ellie sleep in my Model X? I have not seen Ellie since I got the X. Am I moving to Merritt Island? I was surprised to see you can get a dock with access to the intracoastal waterways. So the plan is temporarily I'm going to move. So, sorry, here's the plan. For the next 3, starting roughly July 1st, maybe June 30th, I'm going to go drive up and stay in my cabin for a few weeks as a test. I'm going to take breaks. A couple of nights I'm going to come back and sleep in the house where my ex-wife and daughter live. My ex-wife's going to be somewhere else, and I'll get some quality time with my daughter. That'll break up the staying in the cabin, so it's like really 6 or 7 day stretches and 6-day stretches in the cabin. Late July, I take my daughter to a camp up in Georgia, drop her off, and I'm going to drive around the country. I'm going to drive to the Northeast, stay with friends in Atlanta, drive up and see my cousin and my uncle up in New Hampshire, go to Albany where I'm from, hang out with my friends in Albany. At some point, stop in New York City and see my daughter who's in New York City, drive down, stay with a friend in, I don't want to say North Florida, but north of, somewhere near Ocala, and ultimately come back. And then ideally, I have an offer in on a place. I don't have a response yet to lease a place for like 18 months where I will, it'll be like a YouTube studio, and that's in Merritt Island. If that goes through, I'm also looking at a couple of spots in Canaveral and the other spot, like Rockledge, Vieira. There was a spot, or Melbourne. I'm looking at a few spots where I'm going to locate for a period of time. I'm still going to, technically live in the cabin or technically live in Boca Raton. I'm going to be spending a lot of time up there. The space that I put an offer in is great because it's got a balcony that you could view launches from. It's got 6 different rooms, so I can create like multiple YouTube studio spaces in it. And then have like a lounge area and all this other stuff. So I'm kind of stoked about that. But right now it looks like I may be spending a lot of time in Merritt Island, Canaveral, Rockledge, Vieira, Melbourne, maybe Titusville. That's another spot I'm looking at in Titusville. There's a spot in Titusville that's really close to where the Starship will launch. The launches are all north near Titusville. If you know the geography of Titusville, is about even with. If Canaveral is here, I don't know if I've got this backwards, but Titusville is roughly north-south even with the launch pad. Jetty Park, which is the south end, is closer to where Falcon Heavy boosters and Falcon 9 boosters land. Starship boosters are going to land on the launch pad. So I think being up in Titusville might be better. I've heard that Titusville isn't as nice of a town to be in. But, I noticed this location I was looking at is near El Leoncito, which is a Cuban restaurant that has a good view of the launches. I was at El Leoncito watching a launch. I really like watching if you haven't figured out, I like watching rocket launches. I want to be near SpaceX. What happens when they start getting large bot orders? They start getting large bot orders. It was just if you haven't seen it, Dave Lee had an interview with James Douma. One of my favorite types of videos that Dave Lee does is an interview with James Douma. I'll probably interview James again sometime in the near future, or midterm future, not near future. Great conversation. They talked about bot. What is bot going to be like when they show it off at AI Day 2? We'll see. But I think they're a long ways from having large orders for bot. Right? They got to get past prototype. They got to get it to be capable of doing things, and we'll see. What if Tesla fails? Do you have any other investments? Well, I own equity in a house. I own some metals, gold and silver. I own some rifles. I own a Tesla Model X Plaid and a Tesla Model 3. I'm largely all in on Tesla stock. And I don't know what you mean by Tesla fails. That's a huge risk I'm taking that Tesla might fail, but I think it's a very low probability risk. What I see is Tesla's continuing to kill it. And I'm not as all in as some people, but I'm pretty much all in. Imagine the value of a Model Y when it can drive itself. There's this question of I guess that's the other thing I would talk about from Alexandra's question. After what's my pros and cons of the Plaid? The other thing I would talk about is my experience driving Navigate on Autopilot. So I have about 20,000 miles of FSD beta driving experience under my belt. And I just had about 7,000 miles of Navigate on Autopilot experience driving under my belt, driving the Plaid X that has Navigate on Autopilot. And I think FSD beta is just so much better than Navigate. I think Tesla should just put FSD beta into wide releases FSD and stop doing the Navigate on Autopilot, because I find FSD that much better. I took my Model 3 to get an inspection, and I drove it back under FSD beta, and FSD beta will make turns. It's far less annoying. It's just better. So I think that's a big thing. It's real and it's spectacular. I remember that. No, that's from a Seinfeld episode, Mark Plot. Mark Plot says it's real and it's spectacular. That's what she said. That's from a Seinfeld episode. What was her name? Harry something? All right. Musk may go bankrupt with Twitter deal. Tesla will not. Let's see. Can the new Gigapress make any vehicle or just the Cybertruck? I'm sure the new Gigapress can do other things, but the purpose is to make the Cybertruck. And that's a real curiosity. What exactly is it doing for a Cybertruck? Because Elon said Cybertruck body. Does that mean it's going to fold the Cybertruck body? Unclear about that. Beja Hodo says, I've been saying the exact same thing to guys for the last 5 years. Get a vasectomy, have fun. When you're ready for your kid, have the best, healthiest, most genetically advantaged kid possible. I don't know that I'm worried about genetic advantages. I just, I think that I found that the process of finding a girlfriend is just too hard. I'm 56 years old. I want to if I want to have children, I need a woman who's 35 or less, and women who are 35 or less are not interested in 56-year-old men. Or if they are, it's because they're super rich and I'm not quite that rich. And then it's the wrong reason, right? You don't want to be involved with somebody because they want you for your money. So surrogate, it's a straightforward transaction, I guess. Brandon says Model Y versus new Robotaxi model. Can't imagine much of a cost difference, steering wheel and pedals. I think that the engineering of the Robotaxi model will be radically different. And Elon said it will be engineered for efficiency and cost per mile rather than for performance or handling. So I think you're going to see a lot more efficiency in the vehicle. It probably won't accelerate as strongly, but it will lead that change in transmission, for example, might lead to, I don't know if transmission is the right word, but the change in the drivetrain might lead to higher efficiency in that sense. I think there's a lot of things they can do. It might be more aerodynamic because, they may do some radical things. We'll see. How does inflation affect the development of new gigafactories? I don't think it does because Tesla has enough cash to build new gigafactories. And in a lot of situations, when you build a new factory, you get financing from a local economic development agency, whether it's in China or the US, and the interest rate isn't tied to actual interest rates. It's, a government subsidized interest rate. So I don't think that has an effect. Because inflation and interest rates seem to be running together. Interest rates are rising to combat inflation. And, I suppose the cost of materials to build the gigafactories will go up, but I don't think that's that big of a challenge. I feel like you could get a much better deal on a surrogate. Oh, I think Mexican surrogates are less than $50,000. I'm not spending a lot of time thinking about the surrogate thing right now. I'm busy getting ready for my move, and I want to do more YouTube videos. Once I get into this YouTube space, if I get into this space that I'm looking at, then I'm going to be configured to do more YouTube videos, and I'm going to have my time more aligned to do more YouTube videos. So I'm hoping to, ramp up YouTube video production, and that will, that's really what my focus is going to be. And I talked to Alexander about this. There's this theory that I should start working on the surrogate now, but I think I want to get the fall of 2023. My financial situation changes, and I'm going to buy a house near Canaveral, and that's when I'll be ready. And I'd like to move sooner on having a kid, but I can be a little patient. Thaddeus Walker says instead of Robotaxi having some glass, it will have all glass. I don't think so. I think it'll be lighter weight. I think it'll probably. This can be an interesting question. How are they going to do it? I don't know. All right, let's see. At 80, my dad had a 20-year-old girlfriend. Nice woman, no SX. Okay. I think you could find a girlfriend, but you need to be shredded for that. Someone are into that, but it's definitely niche. I'm in pretty good shape. I'm in pretty good shape here. I'm not shredded, but I've been going to the gym. I just went to the gym this morning. I did. Thing is, I don't focus on getting big. I focus on getting lean. So I ride the exercise bike. I do the treadmill. Most days I just do exercise bike and treadmill. Some days I do some weights, but just to do some strength training. But I don't if I was focused on finding a girlfriend, right? I'd get LASIK. I'd get surgery to get rid of the bags under my eyes. I'd get a hair transplant. But I like being me. I'm happy with who I am, right? I mean, I whitened my teeth with the Crest whitening strips or whatever. I tried to do a few things, but the practical reality is I am who I am. I like who I am. I think a woman who wants to have kids should want to have a man who should want to find a man who's a great dad, and I can prove I am because I have 2 kids who are spectacular. And you date me, after a few dates, I'll introduce you to my kids, and you can decide, does this guy produce good quality? Stock says, I think women prefer lean and fit over muscular. There's definitely, I stopped watching them, but I used to watch some videos about dating, and there's definitely a perception that women prefer men with bigger shoulders, like this V shape. I don't have the V shape. I'm still lean, but I just don't care. A good woman would want a man who's going to be a good dad and a good husband, and apparently they don't care about. It's my experience when I'm on dating apps, when I'm talking to women, whatever. When I watch when I watch videos about what women supposedly want, I just don't. I don't see it. And Ken, I don't agree with you. Women like a fat wallet. Women want men who are successful. That's the other thing. I like women of substance. I don't just want a pretty face. I like that women are pretty. But I want someone who actually does something meaningful, and they don't have time. And I think a lot of women. There's this theory in the circles where people talk about dating that something happened with women where, first of all, men are desperate, and the way it works on a dating app is men will swipe right, indicating interest in almost every woman they see, and women will swipe right on only 4% of the men they see. And what ends up happening is that if you rate people on a scale of 1 to 10, which I don't like doing, but if you rate people on a scale of 1 to 10, then in a sensible world, women who are an 8 or a 9 would want men who are a 9 or a 10, right? And they might settle for a 7, right? But In today's world, women who are a 5 think they deserve a man who's a 10, and they're not interested in men who aren't 10s. And so everybody who's like 8 or below, all the men who are like 8 or below are getting very little interest from women. And, I'm talking about in attractiveness and sort of like these pseudo objective standards, like how tall is the guy. And this is the thing, I'm 6 foot tall. I'm not poor, right? I have money. I have status. The only thing I'm lacking is youth. So I don't check off all the boxes. So women see 56 and they just swipe left. Or they see my face and they just swipe left. They don't get beyond that. And, be nice as Warren. It's not about what someone looks like. I agree it's not what someone looks like. It's not about, but unfortunately, it seems like a lot of people in the dating world, male and female, do focus on what someone looks like. And I'm like, I personally have one standard, which is I like women who are fit. I'm not saying they got to be, ripped, but I like women who go to the gym. I like women who are in reasonable shape. Porn causes dysmorphia, maybe. Women prefer massive wallets, the better for cash and prizes at the end. I think that women who are career women probably care less about how much money a man has and probably care more. Well, they should care less. So Stock says appearance is not priority for women. Finance, intelligence, personality are priority for women. That's not what I'm seeing. At least I think I have. I think I have good finance, intelligence, and personality. But youth is also a factor. So where are we? You got about 15 minutes left. And just to be clear, when this live stream is over, I'm going to shift over to the Locals platform, the Daily Lie. There's a link in the top of the chat. There's a link in the video description. I'm talking about Tesla, SpaceX, and apparently my dating life, my personal life as usual in this video. And we're going to shift over and I'm going to talk about the Supreme Court and politics on the Daily Lie next. But that starts at 2 p.m. Eastern, which is about 13 minutes away. Ripcord says, Warren, you are still confused about FSD Beta and Navigate on Autopilot. They both use the same software, Nav on Autopilot, one on the highway. FSD Beta is just city streets currently. I know that. But I drive Navigate on Autopilot on regular streets, and it sucks compared to FSD Beta. I mean, it works on a lot of streets. Its speed is restricted on some highways. You'll be on a road, and it's a 45-mile-an-hour limit. This happened to me today. And you flick the right scroll wheel to increase the speed, and it won't go over 50. FSD Beta will go to 85 miles an hour on any road. I'm not saying I don't put it up that high, but it will go to whatever speed I want it to go to, up to 85 miles an hour. FSD Beta will make turns on city streets. Navigate on Autopilot won't make turns. Navigate on Autopilot basically bails on you when you get off the highway, and it won't make you get to the exit ramp, and then you got to take over to get on the roadway, and it's like jarring to me that I'm used to letting FSD Beta make the turns for me. And now all of a sudden it doesn't make turns for me, and that's freaking me out. It'll drive windy roads, but it won't turn from road A to road B. That's frustrating. I think women prefer a man who's going to be alive when the kids graduate high school. I'll be alive when the kids graduate high school. I mean, I should make a personal note for those who didn't catch it. My brother passed away a week or two ago. I had driven out to California and hoping to see him while he was in the hospital, thinking he was getting better, and shortly before I got there, he passed away. And I, spent a little bit of time out there with his family, and then I drove back. And I was born into a family of 5. My father and my 2 brothers are both gone. My oldest brother died when we were kids. My mother has Alzheimer's that's very severe, so she's basically gone. So I don't see it, but is there a guy in a cloak with a Sith behind me? I feel like there's somebody looking over my shoulder like, you're next, Warren. I don't really feel that way. But, I do think that I sort of have this goal that I want to be I want to be 75 or less when my kids turn 15. I think, the point about a woman preferring a man who's going to be alive when the kids graduate high school, look, their average marriage lasts 8 years. I got like 26 years of my last marriage. You want a guy who can sustain a marriage for over 20 years? That's me. The average guy that you marry is going to last 8 years if you're lucky. So I'm good for 8 years. I'll be fine in 8 years. So women like bald. EC says no cardio, wait 3 times a week. Do cardio for fun outside. Look, My brother probably died of heart disease. My father probably died of heart disease. My grandfather probably died of heart disease. I'm doing cardio. I'm not doing this to look good. I'm doing this for my health. And I'm trying to lose weight, which is not going well because I keep snacking. That's my other big challenge. Maybe in the cabin I won't snack as much. Maybe you should rethink the kid thing and get a dog. Why do people reject the theory of evolution? Everyone, look, Elon's been talking about this. You know, we need to have more kids. I'm not doing this because Elon said it. I'm doing this because I hit this moment where I realized that what have I done good in life and in my life so far? And my 2 kids are the biggest thing I've done, the thing I enjoyed the most. I want to have kids again, but I want to have my kids. I believe in Darwin. I believe in the theory of evolution. Like all these pseudoscientific people say that they believe in the theory of evolution, then they don't follow it. Well, there's too many people. No, there aren't enough people. We need to make more people. That's the prime directive. Make more people. Be fruitful and multiply. It's the one thing that religion and science agree on is we should have more kids. We should be pushing our own genes forward. And I get here, all these people have you should adopt. Oh, you should do foster kids. You should have a dog. Like, why do people disregard the blinding evidence from evolution and one of the most basic commandments of religion? Be fruitful and multiply. They both say it. It's not just evolution. It's evolution and religion both say the same thing. Dogs need to evolve too. No, the prime directive is to promote your own genes, right? To promote your own genes, to spread your own genes. So that's what I'm doing. Matt Burns says, I eat dinner at 4:30. Oh, yeah, I mean, one of the things that I should do is not snack at night, but that's a problem. It's all an illusion anyways. That's true. The odds are billions to 1 that we are in a simulation. You don't see the link to locals. It's in the top of the chat, and it should be in the video description. Let me check to make sure it's in the video description. Let's see. Should be there. Yeah, it's in the video description. The top of the chat in blue. I don't know if it's in blue for you guys, but pinned to the top of the chat is a link to the live stream that's going to be after this video, and in the video description, the second line is a link to the video. Yehuvi says, "I want 10 kids, just what women my age want." I feel like women my age, no matter how they look, are way too choosy. The supply and demand is off. Yes, that's what a lot of you can watch Michaela Peterson. You can watch some channels I don't watch anymore. I don't watch any of these videos anymore, but Michaela Peterson, Entrepreneurs in Cars. They interviewed this guy who researched dating apps, and the male and female expectations are way off. What do I expect Q3 and Q4 to be around? Irov says he's expecting 380K Q3 and 460K Q4. I haven't really pushed those numbers. I don't like focusing on short-term numbers, but I would expect Q3 to be bigger than Q1, right? I mean, you never know what kind of hurdles are going to get thrown up, whether China's going to go into another COVID restriction, but Shanghai alone is at 70,000 a month, maybe 75,000 a month. So if you take that into Q3, you're expecting 215,000 out of Shanghai, or is that 225,000 out of Shanghai? That's 225,000 out of Shanghai for Q3, right? And then you figure another 150,000 out of Fremont, you're at 370,000 there. And then you add in Berlin and Austin, I think you get over 400,000 in Q3, and I think you get over 500,000 in Q4. But it's so hard to predict this stuff because the supply chain issues are still a huge problem. Do they have enough chips? Do they have enough batteries? Is 4680 production going to get ramped up? There's all these issues. Elango says, I used to think I'll live till 120 with advances in biotech and AI, regular gym goer, no alcohol and smoking. Just got my cancer prognosis 6 months to a year. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Elango. Yeah, you never know when it's coming for you. I hope you're able to do better than what that says. Everybody's at risk, so I'm very sorry to see that. My own hope is that I can make it long enough until Neuralink allows me to extend my life beyond that, because I think Neuralink could be the thing. James says, little people are just awesome. Got a 6-year-old son and 9-year-old daughter. They make everything I do so worth it. Yeah, I mean, if you watch the Grimes interview with Lex Friedman, she talks about watching consciousness emerge in her children. I think it's some people have kids and they don't, they like some men in particular, they work a lot and they see their kids and they're just not that into it. I was able to schedule my life so I was able to spend a lot of time with my kids, and I changed diapers and I took them for late night drives and late night bottle feedings and everything. I was the theater dad, assembling the set and tearing the set down and tutoring them in algebra and helping them with college applications. I loved all of it. I think my kids are wonderful, and I really enjoyed doing it. So I think Musk will own Twitter by the end of the year. Yes. Makeup makes women think they are all that too. Be vegan if you're serious about good health. I'm not convinced that vegan's the only. I think vegan is the answer for some people. It doesn't mean it's the answer for everyone. Just because it works for you doesn't mean it works for everyone else. My big concern is carbs. You can be vegan and eat a lot of carbs, and that's bad. Ripcord, you're focusing on a lot of, naming issues. Look, if you don't have FSD beta, you have FSD and you're driving on city streets, whatever you're going to call that software, it's not working as well as FSD beta is. Donate sperm. I want to raise the kids. I don't just don't want to just push the seed out there. I want to be involved. When you do interview Elon, please ask him about retrofits of matrix headlights and screen motors for the early SX owners. I don't think retrofitting old SNXs is anywhere near. I think they asked him something about that in the Tesla Club of Silicon Valley interview, and Elon's like, "Look, the focus is new cars. Focusing on 50,000 old vehicles is not the way forward. The way forward is making sure that they devote their engineering resources to the new cars. Tesla is not going to focus on the old cars. If you have an old S or X and you're hoping that they're going to update some features or allow you to upgrade something." That's not their focus. That's not where the engineering attention should be from a future of the company perspective. Every engineer should be focused on the new vehicles that are coming rather than the old ones. 36 billion acres of land, 108 billion acres of ocean, just the surface area. What's that? All right. Anyone else amazed Elon disappeared from Twitter? Yeah, I should have mentioned that, Matt. Thank you. Elon hasn't tweeted in 4 or 5 days. And people think that's interesting. Maybe he's just working hard. I don't know. Besides the cars, which Tesla revenue stream is the most important? Well, I think energy is the next most important, but really it's rather than revenue stream, it's what's happening with Tesla AI, real world AI. If Tesla Vision gets where it's going, then you're going to see bot will be the most important thing in the future. Right now, the second most important thing is Tesla Energy. Factory is a product. Why wouldn't Tesla buy Idra? I don't think they need to. I think Idra might be owned by another company, which isn't willing to sell it. Is it possible Tesla uses 4680 on Cybertruck and won't be the base cost of Cybertruck? Yes, I think they will use 4680 on Cybertruck. I think they were very clear about that. I think that Cybertruck, the initial vehicle will be a quad motor. It'll probably be more than $100,000, and I will pay it gladly. I think it's going to be a spectacular vehicle. Okay, so I am about to switch to the Locals platform for what I call the Daily Live for a video where I'm going to talk about politics. Before I go, please check out the t-shirts. Be Less Wrong, the Tesla's the Next Tesla t-shirt. Check out the water bottles, Tesla water bottle, the Elon water bottle. Check out my other videos. Support me on the Locals platform on Patreon. Please check me out on Locals right now. It's free to watch this video, and supporters get to participate in the chat and all that. So thank you everyone for watching.